We've just been watching Ghost in the Shell. Recently I watched the original anime, which is an absolute work of genius, and then I've been watching a little bit of Standalone Complex and the new one as well. And we've just been watching the Scarlett Johansson movie, the live action one from a couple of years ago, and that still really annoys me because I still think they should have used Asian actors and put it in the original language. I think that would have been fantastic. Because visually, and as far as the actual film itself is concerned, it's actually a really good film. I actually quite like it. I think visually it's actually quite stunning. The music's great. It looks good. It's a nice take on that story. You don't want a carbon copy of the anime, of the cartoon, because you know what it is. You've seen it, so you want something a little bit new. And I think they did a pretty good job. It's a pretty good, entertaining film. So of course that gets me thinking about cyberpunk, and that gets me thinking about running cyberpunk games. And I used to run quite a lot of cyberpunk games back in the day. Never got a really proper fleshed out campaign. It was always one shots and shorts, like 8 or 9 sessions, and then move on to something else. And we did that with Cyberpunk 2020, which is an excellent game, of course. An absolute Mike Pondsmith classic. I absolutely love it. Because I like the attitude behind it, I like the design, I like the way it made you feel, I like the rules. It actually worked really well. I'm so sorry, I got my fan turned on. That's really annoying and noisy. And then of course we Shadowrun. We play Shadowrun. I've still got my first edition on the shelf behind me there. I was more of a player in that than I was a GM, and when I used to GM it, I didn't strip away the magic, but I kind of made a proper technical reason why it was existing. And all the metahumans were actually people with cosmetic. It was like a fad. People had cosmetic surgery and enhancements and that sort of stuff. Because I had a bit of trouble because I came from two backgrounds. I had a science fiction role-playing group and I had a fantasy role-playing group, and they both had different expectations as to what a sci-fi fantasy game would be. Sort of dungeon bashers and looters, and then there's the guys who wanted to do the science fiction hacking and storytelling. I mean the games were fine, don't get me wrong, but I always found it a little bit difficult. I probably do better now, but I always preferred playing in Shadowrun than I did actually running it. As far as my own games are concerned, I designed a game called Cyber Streets using my fighting system, and I'll leave a link in the description, which I'm saying quite a lot now, like a proper YouTuber. I should have started this by saying this episode is sponsored by Farsight Games. Me, I'm Farsight Games. I'm basically sponsoring myself. Such is life. So I've done my own sort of version of it, and I enjoyed it. It was more the cyberpunk that I did. I tried not to call it cyberpunk, although I wanted to use the word cyber in there because it wasn't really punk. Because it's like a police procedural sort of game. But at the moment, I want to go back to what makes punk and why cyberpunk used to appeal to me, especially in the 80s and in certain respects, because I think punk's been added as like an addition to a lot of things now, and it's kind of losing its true meaning, its original meaning a little bit. So if I ran a cyberpunk game now, it'd be players playing characters, who were against the man, hated the system, felt marginalised, didn't care what people thought about and wanted to smash things up a little bit, and were nihilistic in this terrible dystopian nightmare future world of technology and rampant corporations and free capitalism, which is destroying the world. So yeah, I thought running a game like that would be really cool, but it's finding like-minded people, because now there's different kinds of cyberpunk. People come at cyberpunk in sort of different ways. So you got the player who probably just wants to be cool, got the leather jacket, got the collar up and chipping in, which is fine. Then you got the nihilistic punk who just wants to smash everything up and doesn't give a toss and wants to listen to loud music. And then you got other kinds of punk sort of coming in, which, yeah, I think people's approach to cybernetics and all that sort of stuff and the actual genre itself is very different. I think I'd find it difficult to find some like-minded people who want to play the game the way that I want to play it. You know what I mean? So that's down to me really. I'm the one that's supposed to find the players or accommodate what people want in the game. That's what I should be saying really. So I don't think I'll ever get a true group, but you know what I mean. We all have fun in our own ways, don't we? So, but yeah, I won't mind getting back into a bit of cyberpunk again. But this always happens to me. I'll watch a film or something, and I think that's fantastic. And the next thing you know, I'm going to want to run a game or design a game around it, stuff like that. I think I can't remember what I'd watched. I watched Blade Runner, I think, and then I was thinking about running it. And there's the thing, I don't think Blade Runner is cyberpunk at all. There's virtually no cyber, and there's very little punk because you are following a policeman around. So and it's not really against the man. It is a little bit in 2049, but I wouldn't call it the aesthetic. I'd say was cyberpunk, but I don't think Blade Runner either film is cyberpunk at all. But the aesthetic, the way it looks, I think that was kind of adopted by cyberpunk. There were the big cities and the flying cars and that sort of stuff, which is absolutely fantastic. I love it. I think probably cyberpunk to me is like Akira, because these guys are off the street and they're fighting against something bigger than them. That's another anime that I adore. In fact, it was Akira that first got me into anime in the late 80s. I remember watching this documentary on Channel 4 talking about animation in general, but then they started talking about Japanese and anime and manga, and the clips that they showed were Akira, and I was gobsmacked, and I couldn't wait for it to come out. I remember buying the double VHS cassette, one original language and one dubbed, and I've got about 3 different copies of it, and yeah, it's just brilliant. I love it. So, but yeah, I mean, it's a genre that I've always admired. It's a genre that I've always enjoyed. I should spend more time with it, really. I should spend more time playing it. You know what I mean? And instead of thinking about running a game, I shouldn't be so controlling all the time. I should learn to enjoy it. So there you go. Yeah, another short video for you, just farting some thoughts out. So thanks for listening. It's alright.